Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Let the filibustering begin.
Welcome to Nerd Party.
Well, hello and welcome to Filibuster here on the Nerd Party Network. Joining me as ever is Dallas King. Dallas, are you all wrapped up with your mittens for watching films in Utah?
Absolutely, that's where I am right now. Why? Don't you believe me? I mean, it was actually snowing yesterday morning while I was watching films, so I'd like to think I was getting as close to the traditional Sundance experience as I can from my sofa in Aberdeen.
Well, usually when we sort of like kick off our episodes lately, we've been kind of like, so Dallas, what have you been watching? Lee, what have you been watching? But I think in this case, I think we just dive straight into it. Dallas, you've obviously been sort of taking in the virtual 2021 Sundance Film Festival. I should note I have had to write down so many times 2021 because I'm constantly saying Sundance 2020. I'm still not in that mindset yet. So Dallas, for people that were sort of like signed up for it, how long in advance have you been sort of preparing and excited to go over to the virtual Sundance Film Festival, and what was the setup like for the festival for a press like yourself?
Well, I mean, given last year, and well, actually say last year, I mean, you can basically, so if we go by calendar year, sort of March to March, I mean, we discussed it at great length during our London Film Festival episode about the differences and the pros and cons, and just, you know, wanting to have some sort of film festival experience no matter what it is. I mean, obviously not to name drop, but I was lucky enough to have both sides because I did manage to go to the Venice Film Festival, which was an actual film festival. Shameless promotion for myself. But given that Sundance takes place in America and the state of things in America currently, things perhaps might get better. Who knows? We'll have to see. But it was always going to be unlikely that they were going to have a physical version of Sundance. And if they did, I think it's fair to say that I would not have been attending, not through any fact of, you know, not being allowed to enter the United States at the moment, but really because of the costs involved in getting across and just the sheer amount of travel that I would have to do for about a sort of 5-day festival, because I think I would have had to fly from Aberdeen to London, then London to somewhere like New York or Dallas, Fort Worth, and then connect to Utah, and then get a bus or something to Park City itself. So the fact that they said that it was going to be a virtual festival and they were accepting press applications, as I said, absolutely, yeah, you might as well give it a go. You know, no guarantee. You know, I work for a fairly small outlet in the UK. Obviously, it's, you know, it's one of the big sort of festivals. You know, you've got Cannes, Venice, Toronto. You know, London is getting up there, but I think Sundance, it's the first one of the year. It always sort of kicks things off well. You always fans of A24 films and Neon, actually, in particular this year as well, are always looking forward to seeing what those guys sort of acquire during the festival. So I thought I'll send it in. Got a reply, I think it was around about mid-December, saying I was in. I was very excited. And then they sort of dropped the program probably sort of early January, mid-January. To be honest, there was not many films which I had heard of. There was nothing, you know, there was no sign of The Green Knight, which hopefully will turn up at South by Southwest, I think. But I thought, well, you know, I'm in for a penny, in for a pound. And then sort of got details of how it was going to work. And I felt, okay, this could potentially work, because I know one of the biggest problems that we had with the London Film Festival was the fact that the press screenings were limited to basically 2-hour windows, where basically you had to watch it within a stipulated time. And you know, some people tried to get around it by sort of pressing pause and then sort of coming back to it on their lunchtime and stuff like that. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. I know some people who went to the New York Film Festival virtually last year who had basically it's like a 72-hour window. This one in Sundance was basically you had your premiere slots, and then the day after you got second screenings, where basically you've got 24 hours to watch it. If you were press, you technically had 51 hours to watch it because you got a day before it went on screening live to the public as well. So I mean, it's a bit of a rookie error, I have to say, that when sort of scheduling things, I was looking at the times and going, well, there's no way that, I'm going to stay up for, a premiere screening at 2 o'clock in the morning. Unfortunately, with an imminent house move, I couldn't afford to take the time off work. So it was basically, I'll watch films during the day, either sort of before I start work, at lunchtime, in the evening, and stuff like that. So I hadn't actually booked many premieres. But then it turned out that the ones that were on at like from 5 till 8 a.m., I realized that if you pressed play around about 10 to 8 in the morning, you could still watch it. The cut, you basically, you had 4 hours to watch it from the time you press play. So therefore, I then sort of reschedule things to sort of get one full premiere in the morning and stuff like that. In terms of writing up my reviews, when I did the Venice Film Festival, I managed to see about 13 films and did about 13 reviews. And that was basically down to the fact that I was there doing that and nothing but that. I've been averaging about one review a day, if that, but I've managed to watch 14 films over the last sort of 4 days, 5 days, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, 6 days technically. But there were some issues today where they'd given every sort of press member sort of 10-second screenings that they could access, but then due to issues over the weekend, they then reset it to 0 on the Monday, but then everyone logged in on Tuesday, and basically it said you'd used all 10. So basically I haven't been able to watch any today. So about 5 days. So yeah, I mean, it's a brave new world. Lots of, I think the platform itself has been fantastic for viewing things because I haven't had to use a VPN or anything. If you bought a ticket through the main website, you had to have a VPN or an IP address in America or Canada. However, if you were press, you could watch these films wherever you wanted to. So that was a great thing. Hopefully that will be the norm for the likes of South by Southwest and other sort of non-UK film festivals in the future. That would be great to see. So overall, very happy. One thing that I have kind of missed out on is the social interaction. I know it's the biggest thing we missed about London was being able to sort of queue up for a film and chat with your friends and then sort of immediately discuss it afterwards. But because I didn't really attend many premieres, they did apparently have a holding room where for 15 minutes before the start of the film, you would basically enter the holding room and you sort of like a virtual sort of chat room thing where you could talk to other critics and stuff like that and audience members. They did have Q&As after the films, which they then sort of put up online so you could watch them anytime, which was good. And I guess because they were sort of virtual ones just done over Zoom, it then was just one moderator talking to a couple of people about the film, therefore cutting out the hideous, this is more of a comment than a question or two-part questions, which I despise. So that's one thing that the virtual film festival world has managed to lose, which is that's a good thing, I guess. But overall, no, great experience. But I would have liked more sort of interaction. I guess if I'd sort of stayed up between the hours of basically 11 p.m. and 8 a.m. UK time to be on Mountain Time, I might have been able to do a bit more of that. But what it did allow for was basically waking up in the morning and seeing what the US critics were making of all the films and then sort of rearranging your schedule based on, okay, that sounds really good, I'll give that a watch, or, well, I was going to watch that, but it sounds like it's an absolute stinker. I'm not going to waste my time or one of my precious 10 viewings on it. I'll find something else to watch. So, yeah, like I say, pros and cons, but overall it's been, I think it's been worthwhile.
So what were some of the films that you were excited to see going in? What kind of, I know you're someone that enjoys going through things with a highlighter. Another thing that we've sadly lost in this kind of period of kind of COVID. What were you kind of looking forward to going in?
I mean, yeah, that's the biggest disappointment with the upcoming Glasgow Film Festival was not getting my physical brochure to get my pink highlighter out and go through it in great detail. Because I think if you've got a physical brochure, I think it's easier to find everything that you're going to want to see because you basically pour over everything. Whereas with an online thing, you're sort of going through windows and then clicking through to get to different subsections, and I always feel that the stuff that I'm going to miss. And it's true that I probably was missing quite a lot of things before I actually got into the start of the festival. I mean, the sort of the biggest draws for me going in was a new Ben Wheatley film, In the Earth, where he was returning to his horror roots, and then also a new Edgar Wright film is always welcome. But this one was a documentary about Sparks, the music band, which I have to say I had never heard of before. Or wasn't really familiar with before going in, but I have thoughts on that one, which I'm sure I can get to later. But yeah, I think this was more, since there wasn't like the main draws. I think like probably the biggest film that they had sort of got late announced to the film festival was Judas and the Black Messiah, the Fred Hampton story, starring Lakeith Stanfield and Daniel Kaluuya, who will probably get an Oscar nomination. Was probably the biggest sort of name draw and sort of Oscar bait sort of thing. So this was more about sort of taking chances on the smaller films, which I know we've both said it with London and Edinburgh and stuff like that. That's where sometimes it can throw up a real gem with the likes of like Run from London Film Festival a couple of years ago and stuff like that. It's the finding something to fill a gap, and then it turns out to be one of your most favourite films is always a joy. And I realise I've just gone on a rant for about 10 minutes. Not a rant, but a blur, blah, 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 blah. So yeah, I'll let you speak.
No, not at all. Like for me, like I suppose it's similar to. I was kind of thinking about it the other day with kind of this sort of thing where for me, I never got around to signing up in time, and I am determined I will. I noticed that South by Southwest is still open. I'm going to take advantage of that and sign up still. But for me, I suppose it's similar to these YouTube videos and such like that you get when kind of the weather's terrible, you can't go abroad. You're like, I'm just going to watch a video of someone enjoying themselves or doing something, or an unboxing video. That's what I suppose this one's like for me. So, what have been the surprise films?
Yeah, no, I mean I have seen quite a few good films, but yeah, I was just thinking because our very own Sean Eastridge went to Sundance last year, and it would have been funny to have him on to sort of compare and contrast experiences of being, actually there versus virtually there. But I have to say, I did buy a Sundance Film Festival jumper off eBay for 99p, and I've been wearing it the last couple of days while watching the films to try and feel like I was more there, because unfortunately I don't know whether it's due to Brexit or whether it was just the shipping costs were too much, but I wanted to buy something from the store as a memento, but unfortunately it didn't ship to the UK, because that's the biggest thing I miss from physical film festivals is getting your press pass, which you can add to your collection, and then also a nice tote bag, because who doesn't love a tote? But films that I did love, I will tell you. One, and this one is just sort of outside the top five. It's one which didn't work for everyone, but it's one which I hadn't realized what it was reading the blurb, but when I saw people talking about it in the morning, I added it to my list. I think what piqued my interest was somebody used the dreaded phrase A24 vibes, so I thought I'll give it a go. And this was 8 for Silver, which is a bit of a gothic horror story about a group of English people who run off a Romani traveling camp from their land, and before they die, the Romani gypsy woman puts a curse on the land, and it turns out that curse is in the form of a werewolf. And one of the children of the landowner becomes infected by a werewolf and proceeds to stalk and hunt the rest of the village. And it doesn't work completely in terms of like atmosphere and look. It's sort of spot on. I think where it falls down slightly is in the CGI effects that surround the werewolf. It's like there's some great practical effects, including an autopsy, which is sort of probably up there with The Thing in terms of creepy gruesomeness and just sheer sort of WTF about it all. It was like a real sort of shock of what happens, and I'm not going to spoil it for anyone. Um, but it's like the practical effects in there are great. It's like they spent a lot of time on the production design, cinematography, and that. It's just I don't know whether it was the budget ran out in terms of when it came to the CGI or something. It's probably why the monster is not glimpsed fully until sort of the end. But I mean, sometimes say Jaws, for example, if it doesn't work, sometimes your limitations can work to your advantage. This one maybe not completely convincing. But it is a different take on sort of werewolf story that we haven't had for a while. So horror fans would probably enjoy that one, I think. Next up is the aforementioned The Sparks Brothers musical documentary by Edgar Wright. Those sort of looking for your traditional Edgar Wright style might be slightly disappointed. This is a very much more traditional music documentary using archive footage, pop videos, talking heads, and stuff like that. There's not the jump cuts and the fast editing and stuff like that. I noticed on Twitter today, I think he said that he'd attended a Sparks gig with Phil Lord from the Lord and Miller directing you, and said, I don't know why Sparks aren't more famous. Someone should do a documentary about them. And then Phil Lord said, well, why don't you do it? And so he pitched it to the band that evening, and he said yes. And this is the result. And it sort of reminded me of, I think, one of your favorite films of last year, David Byrne's American Utopia. That was a music concert film, but both times I wasn't really aware of the bands and their music. It turns out, of course, watching the documentary, it turns out you actually do know some of the songs. You just didn't realize that they were by them. But I think it's the kind of thing where coming in as a complete novice is not a penalty. It's basically it's a very, very comprehensive documentary, to the point where it's slightly too long. It's sort of 2 hours 15 minutes, but it covers their entire career so far, which is about 54 years. So there's a lot to cover, and they do but I think anyone going in can't help but be intrigued by the band and will want to sort of seek out some of their music. And I believe Edgar Wright's already put together a Spotify playlist for for newbies too. Of course he has. So yeah, it's a very, very accessible documentary. There was another documentary which I just watched yesterday, which was called Misha and the Wolves, which is probably going to be sort of, it's like a Storyville one by BBC, but I can see it sort of being picked up by Netflix because it's got like so many twists and turns in the stories. It's about a woman who survived the Holocaust and apparently went looking for her parents who got transported to Auschwitz, and she was traveling on her own through the woods and got sort of taken in by a pack of wolves, and then she was encouraged to write an autobiography about that. But some people do some digging, and maybe not everything is not what it seems. And I will leave that one at that one in case anyone wants to watch that. We've got Flea. Now, this was a film which was picked up by Neon, acquired at the festival, and it's a sort of Danish documentary about a Afghan refugee who came to Denmark, escaping the war, and it's about him reaching a point in his life where he wants to move forward with his fiance, but he has not told his fiance the truth about what he left and stuff like that. And it's about him talking to another friend and sort of documentary filmmaker and therapist about his experiences finally. But it's done. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the film Waltz with Bashir. Did you ever see that one?
Yeah.
It's done in a very similar style where it's basically a documentary where it's a series of interviews, but it has been animated. So you get to follow the story visually. Whereas if it had just been sort of two people in a room talking, it would not have had the same impact as it was. It was very, very good, and it'll probably be up near there with the best of the fest for a lot of people, I think. Huge crowd pleasing hit was next. Actually, the first film of the festival, Coda. I'm not sure if you've heard. Did you hear much buzz about this one on the Twitter sphere? No. Well, this was picked up for $25 million by Apple.
Yes, Apple.
And this is the story of a young girl who is the only hearing member of her entire deaf family, and they work in Massachusetts on a fishing boat. and it's about her struggle of wanting to help the family, but then also wanting to pursue her dream of singing and getting into college on a scholarship for singing, something which the family don't really take seriously because they can't hear it. So what should it matter? It's really, really sort of crowd pleasing. Sort of, there was lots of people saying they were in tears by the end of it. Fantastic sort of performances. It's sort of if you'd like Sound of Metal, this is another sort of film which showcases deaf actors. Doing it. It's not people playing deaf; it's actually deaf people being it. So it's got like Oscar winner Marley Matlin and stuff like that. So very, very good. And it's also got I think it's the lead actor from Sing Street is the love interest as well. So it's also got a very sort of it's got that traditional sort of coming of age, fighting the family, but doing something all culminating in a sort of musical performance sort of thing. Very everyone's gonna. I can't see anyone who would not like this film. I think it's just it'll get I say get a wide release. It's going to be on Apple TV and probably not in cinemas because cinemas aren't really open yet. But I think this one's going to do very, very well. Next film is probably one of the most affecting of the festival. A lot of people have been talking about this one in terms of the performances. It's a debut film from debut screenplay and direction from an actor called Fran Kranz. He was in The Cabin in the Woods and is it maybe Alias or something like that? I'm not sure. But this is basically a four-hander about two families who come together 6 years on after a tragic incident to sort of work through their issues. Stars Jason Isaacs, Martha Plimpton from The Goonies, Anne Dowd from Handmaid's Tale, Hereditary, and that. And then Reed Brinkley, who is an actor who you probably kind of recognise the face of, if not the name. And it's just these four people talking. It's very could easily have been a stage play, but it's like they're talking about an incident which essentially, I don't think it's a spoiler to say that it involves a school shooting, and this is just four powerhouse performances, and there's a jump cut in there sort of around the halfway point, which is as sort of shocking and gasp-inducing as you'd find in any horror, I think. And I think, yeah, this is one which people are going to campaign for the performances. It's a hot topic, obviously, in America at the moment with gun violence. It kind of manages to not delve into the politics behind everything too much. I think one of the characters even sort of says they didn't want today to be about that. It's more about how something like that affects the families, and not just the families of the victims, but also the perpetrator as well. So yeah, I think this is gonna get a sort of big release. I think after Sundance, someone's going to pick this up and run with it in terms of the quality of the performances, I think. Yeah. And then I've got one more film, which is, if anyone has seen my Twitter feed during the festival, will know exactly which film I'm going to talk about. And it was the first film I saw. I gave it 4 stars, and then I rewatched it because I had time to, and then I bumped it up to 5 stars. And this is the horror movie by Prano Bailey Bond, and it is Censor. This was a film which I wasn't really on my radar until sort of the first day, and then I sort of had a look at the description and went, actually, you know what, I'm going to give this a go. And I'm so glad I did, because I am a huge fan of Barbarian Sound Studio, and this is this year's Barbarian Sound Studio. It's basically a film set in the 80s, around the time of the video nasties, when the BBFC, which back then apparently was called the British Board of Film Censors, not classification. They were censoring films at that point, and it's about a woman who experienced a tragedy in her youth, and is now working in the BBFC. And then one day she comes across a film which sort of triggers a memory from her past, and then she sort of is convinced that the person who made this film may hold the key to the secret being unlocked. It looks like it was filmed in the 80s. It was filmed on sort of 35mm. The costumes and stuff, there's a lot of smoking in rooms inside, which kind of gives it an immediate sort of period setting. But it's a fantastic performance by Naim Algar as Enid, the main protagonist. It's got that sort of thing where as it goes on, you're not entirely sure what's real, what isn't. It's also got stylistically, it also reminded me of sort of a bit like Garth Marenghi's Dark Place. So if there's any fans of that, then I think you'll love this as well. It's just, it's violent, but in a clever way. It knows that what is truly shocking is what is left unsaid. It's made cuts to it like a censor would, to stay on the right side of not being banned or anything like that. So I thought that was great, and it also is surprisingly relevant in terms of the Me Too movement, in terms of how Enid is treated at the workplace as a woman, and then also the sort of psychological and emotional manipulation which goes on set on a horror movie. So it's got a lot of layers, like an onion. It has layers, and this is just a fantastic film. I think Kim, who's often on our podcast, I think she would love it as well. Be keen to see what she says. It's a British film. It's been produced by Film 4, so I expect it will get a release at some point here later in the year. But I'm very excited to see what Prana Bailey Bond does next. And if there was any fans of Nathan Barley as well, Nathan Barley, Nicholas Burns himself, makes an appearance as a cocky censor as well. Oh, and Michael Smiley's in it, and no film is ever bad for having Michael Smiley in it as well.
I know, that's the one that seems to have really broken out from the festival for me. Like, I've just seen rave reviews non-stop for it, and I immediately sort of started looking, going, is that one playing at Glasgow? Hopefully, maybe. Unfortunately, not. I was even secretly hoping, I wonder if they're going to do like a surprise or secret screening. I unfortunately have put it to my mind that the best I can now hope for is maybe Edinburgh in June if everything goes together, but the odds aren't looking too good.
Well, I mean, it looks like the Euros will probably not really have an audience in June if it does go ahead. So, I get, but I think given the way things are, we're probably looking at a virtual one for Edinburgh, so they might just stick to the original June date rather than moving to August. But yeah, who knows? We've got to take each day at a time at the moment.
Well, it sounds like if anyone's like me, they've made a hell of a lot of notes about films to look forward to, hopefully this year. And yeah, it sounds like it's been an amazing festival. I think you've still got one day left to go. Is there anything you're looking forward to hopefully seeing tomorrow?
There is one day left. Or today is the last day if you're listening to this when it drops. But tonight, the previous night, Tuesday night, is the awards ceremony, and that's when they dish out all the awards for, I think it's US Dramatic Competition, documentary, international, and stuff like that. So I believe that tomorrow we'll be able to watch all the award winners again. So hopefully there's a few things which I might have missed first time round, which I'll get a second chance at. So it's not over yet. One more day, and then I've got 3 weeks, and then straight on to Glasgow. So I do love the start of the year with all these film festivals.
Absolutely. Well, we'll be back in a kind of couple weeks, obviously, to touch on Glasgow. But before then, we'll be back in 2 weeks' time to sort of discuss the new Netflix movie from Sam Levinson, the creator of Euphoria and Assassination Nation, Malcolm and Marie, and we'll be kind of looking at some of our favourite Netflix originals. So hopefully you'll join us again in 2 weeks in warmer climates. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Join the revolution. Join the Nerd Party.
Welcome to Nerd